The Strangers is probably one of the best and scariest horror movies to come out in the 21st century. Let's do it. The Strangers is about this couple named James and Kristen, and they are on their way to James's childhood remote cabin in the woods after a wedding. Things are super tense between them, and we end up finding out it's because James proposed to Kristen and Kristen said no. So again, things are super awkward, so James calls his friend Mike and is like, dude, can you pick me up in the morning because things are super uncomfortable here, I just want to leave. But suddenly there's a knock on the door. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning, so obviously they're super freaked out, and when they go to the door, it's this blonde woman. We can't see her face because of the lighting. And she just says, is Tamara home? And James and Kristen are like, nope, wrong house, you need to leave. So she leaves, and after she does, James decides he needs a pack of cigarettes, so he leaves Kristen alone to go get them. But before he leaves, he starts the fireplace. So Kristen's alone, and now there's another knock on the door. So she doesn't open the door this time, but she asks who's there, and it's the same woman saying, is Tamara home? And Kristen's like, you already came here and asked this. Tamara is not here. Wrong house. You need to leave. And then at this point, she locks the door. Okay. All of a sudden, the smoke alarm starts going off because it's triggered by the fireplace. So Kristen stands on a chair and is trying to get the smoke alarm off the ceiling, but when she's doing that, another knock comes to the door, and she gets startled and drops the fire alarm on the floor. So Kristen tries to call James from the landline to be like, what the fuck, you need to get back here, but the call drops. And then in probably the most iconic yet most terrifying shot in the movie, we see Kristen standing in the kitchen while behind her is a masked man that she has no idea is there. And then she looks over to the chair where she was standing at and sees that the smoke alarm that was on the floor is now on the chair. So now she's aware that somebody's in the house. So she knows the landline's not working because the call dropped, so she goes to get her cell phone and charger, but it's missing. So Kristen grabs a knife as a weapon, and she hears something coming out of the backyard, and when she goes to open the curtains to see what it is, she sees the masked man in the window. And as she's panicking from this, she then sees the front door being forced open. She goes to force the front door shut and sees the person that is opening it is the same woman from earlier, but now we can see her face and see that she is wearing this creepy ass fucking mask. So absolute fucking chaos is ensuing from every angle, and Kristen goes to hide in the bedroom. She hears footsteps and she's absolutely terrified, but turns out it's James. So she tells James what happened and she's like, we need to get the fuck out of here. So James goes out to his car to get his cell phone that he left there to try and call for help, but sees that his car is completely vandalized. And then he sees Dollface watching him from afar and runs back into the house. But they're like, fuck it, we still gotta try and drive the car, we gotta get out of here. But when they try to do that, the third intruder, who we refer to as the pinup girl, rear ends them with the truck and makes the car completely undrivable. So now they have no option but to just flee back into the house. So James finds a shotgun that he knows his family has there and is like, all right, we just gotta wait these people out. Meanwhile, it's now about morning time, so we see James's friend Mike arrive. So at this point, they're hiding, the house is kind of ransacked, and this creepy-ass country music is playing, and Mike is trying to find them, and unbeknownst to him, the masked man is walking behind him with an axe. So James and Kristen, having no idea that Mike has arrived, hear footsteps coming, and they shoot at him and kill him because they assume it's one of the intruders. So James just killed his best friend and is devastated, but he remembers, hey, in the barn out back, there's a radio transmitter. We can use that to call for help. It's literally the only option we have left. So James goes outside to go to the barn and sees the pinup girl, who he tries to shoot, but when he does that, he is attacked by the man in the mask. So Kristen hears this and is like, all right, fuck it, I need to make a run for the barn. So she does, and she gets there, but as she's on the radio calling for help, the pinup girl smashes the radio with an axe. So Kristen ends up making it back to the house, but when she gets there, she runs into Dollface. So she has Kristen cornered. Kristen tries to make a run for her, but then the man in the mask comes out of nowhere and knocks her out. So when James and Kristen wake up, it's light out, and they are tied to chairs in the living room facing the three intruders. And at this point, the most iconic and terrifying line maybe in all of horror cinema is delivered. Kristen asks, why are you doing this to us? And Dollface responds, because you were home. We, the audience, do not see their faces, but the three intruders unmask themselves to Kristen and James and then take turns stabbing them to death. So the three intruders get into their pickup truck and drive away, but they come across these two young boys on bikes. And it turns out they're giving out like religious materials. So we hear one of the boys ask the intruders, are you a sinner? And Dollface responds, sometimes. They all drive away and we hear the pinup girl say, it'll be easier next time. Cryptic as fuck. Next, the boys end up at James and Kristen's house, which they find completely ransacked. And they also find the bloody bodies of Kristen, James, and Mike. The movie ends with one of the boys going to touch Kristen, and she grabs him and starts screaming, so she actually survived.